Please listen carefully.
Welcome to Dirk Center, and let's get right into it. So we have a lot to talk about today, and we're going to get into some hockey today.
We're actually going to be doing a show about hockey. Isn't this fantastic? Now, before we start, I am wearing a Devils jersey because I am a Devils fan. I know. They were knocked out by the Lightning in 5 games, but that's okay because I still love my Devils, and I still love the fact that we're going to be great in 5 years to come. Alan, right here, is wearing his Capitals jersey, and they're doing pretty well right now, I have to say.
They're doing better than they ever have. I've never seen them get past the second round. This is the first time they've advanced past the second round since 1998 when they defeated the Boston Bruins.
And the first time they beat the Penguins since 1994.
Exactly. This is the first time they've beaten the Penguins in a very, very long time. They finally exercised their demons in Game 6. Evgeny Kuznetsov scored the game winner 5 minutes into overtime, and I've never been happier in my entire life, and I've never had hockey past this point.
Now, let me ask you this. What makes this Capitals team? Now, the Capitals and Penguins have faced each other many, many times in the playoffs, but what makes this team more special than the past Capitals teams that couldn't get past the Penguins?
I think it was the rookie factor. They had a lot of rookies in the lineup. Jacob Vrana, the guy who contributed a lot in the first and second rounds, especially against the Penguins, had the game-winning goal in Game 5. Jacob Vrana has been amazing. We've had rookies like Nathan Walker, Travis Boyd, Shane Gersich come into the lineup, and I feel like it's the fresh legs that they've had, and they've never had against the Penguins. In the past, it's been trying to find a perfect lineup. Their main goal was to find the right players, the right pieces to beat the Penguins. But these pieces, I felt like they're more like they didn't have as much heart as this team this year. And another factor I think that went into the Capitals beating the Penguins was the fact that the Penguins, they've won 2 cups in a row, and they're tired. They're very tired. And I could see towards the end of Game 5, they were a little sluggish. In the beginning of Game 6, it was very hard for them to generate scoring chances. And kudos to you guys, Penguins. Like, you won 2 straight cups. There's no shame in losing to the Capitals in 6 games. So, yeah, I think it was the infusion of the rookies into the lineup, that they had fresh legs and lots of speed to bring into the game, which you need now in today's NHL. And I think it was just guys like buying in fully into what they wanted to do, and I think that's why they won for this series.
Now, I'm going to add, too, that you guys did keep guys like Evgeny Malkin, 0 goals. Mm-hmm. Guys, that were supposed to perform well. Matt Murray didn't look as good as I've seen him in the playoffs. And just the fact that, the kryptonite factor, eventually the kryptonite factor, now what I mean about that is the kryptonite factor means that every team basically has a kryptonite. No matter what happens, they just can't beat a certain team. Now, the Capitals, it's always been the Pittsburgh Penguins. In baseball, the Minnesota Twins just can't beat the New York Yankees. In football for years, it was the Colts who couldn't beat the New England Patriots. But eventually, the kryptonite's going to run out.
Yeah, after time passes, like new lineups come in, new players come in, and those new players, they have no idea about the history. Like, that's what I'm saying about the Caps rookies. They haven't played through that anger, the history, and the trauma that all those players went through, losing in the second round. They didn't feel that. They didn't know that. They just went out there, played hard, played with heart, and they went out there and got it done. And like these curses fade away as new lineups come in, and people just start eventually forgetting about the curses, and then it moves on.
And finally, Alexander Ovechkin has that monkey off his back. The man could not make it past the second round, and you know what's even more crazy? In the NBA, Chris Paul, he actually made it to his first conference finals.
Right.
The same year that Ovechkin made it to his first conference finals. So congrats to both players, both tremendous players, probably both future Hall of Famers. So,
yeah,
congrats to both of them.
I got to give him a lot of credit. In the beginning of the season, he said, "We are not going to suck this year." As much as fans thought, wow, like, we've lost so many players. We lost Justin Williams. We lost Nate Schmidt to the Golden Knights. All these players that were key contributors, we thought, wow, like, we're definitely not going to be as good as last year.
Even when Kuznetsov was on that breakaway, he was just saying, just bleeping score.
Yeah, but just Just score. That's all he wants. Yeah, and the look on his face, like personally as a Capitals fan, the look on Ovechkin's face when that goal was scored and he went in to celebrate like I just did. He just looked up into the heavens and the monkey fell off of his back. And here he is in the third round for the first time in his 13-year career. And I think that it's going to be a good series against the Caps and Tampa Bay.
Now, let's talk about those Tampa Bay Lightning. Of course, they beat my Devils in 5 games. They took care of the Bruins pretty well. How do you think this matchup will fare against the Capitals?
I feel like a lot of people are favoring Tampa, and they should be, because they were the number 1 team in the conference. They never really wavered throughout the season. They got a number 1 goaltender, and Andre Vasilevsky's performed really well all year. Still have Stamkos, Tyler Johnson, Nikita Kucherov, and the former New York Rangers on defense with Strawman, McDonough, and Girardi. So they have a very solid team, but I think the Caps are extremely familiar with this team and familiar with the players that they have to go against. So I think that they'll be ready for it, and I think they match up well, especially because our goaltender has played outstanding. Braden Holtby has stopped just about everything coming his way, and I think it's a good matchup, and it's a lot more even than people think.
Now, I'll give my preview for that series, but I'll ask you first, who wins the series and how many games?
There's no stopping the Washington Capitals this year. I have said it every year. You have heard me say it every single year.
Every single year, guys. That's not even
every single
year.
Every
single year.
I'd love to be a front runner right now and just say like, oh, Caps winning the cup, no doubt. Believe me, I'm super excited about this team. I just think that there's like really something different about them. Like the fact that they got past the second round, that's one step, but
it's a huge step.
It's a huge step. Yeah, exactly. Getting past the Pittsburgh Penguins, who I thought if they beat the Capitals again, they'd win a 3rd straight Stanley Cup. And I think that the stronger team came out of the series, and I think the stronger team is going to come out of the Tampa series as well. I think the Capitals will beat the Tampa Bay Lightning in 6 games. And I think that just because they're starting the series on the road, and the Capitals are an outstanding 5-1 on the road in the playoffs this season. So I think if they get off to a good start, get up 1-1 or 2-0 on the Lightning, they come back home with the lead, I think they'll be in pretty good shape after that, because they've been really strong on the road.
Yes, and all strong throughout the series. And now for my prediction for the Capitals Lightning, I am actually going to be more confident than you. I say the Capitals in 5. Mainly because, now listen, I'm not taking it away from Tampa Bay. You guys are cocky, but you are a fantastic hockey team that can score throughout any team possible. However, the Bruins and the Devils are not the Capitals. They're just not as good. They don't have, in my opinion, the star power that the Capitals have. Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, I think will be way too much for that Tampa defense. I know their defense is spectacular, but again, they just haven't faced a team like Washington. Plus the fact, just like the Penguins, the Washington Capitals have seen the Tampa Bay Lightning in the playoffs before, and I realize teams change, but I really truly don't believe the Capitals want to get swept again by Tampa.
Yeah, to add to that, the Capitals, last 2 times that they faced the Tampa Bay Lightning, the last time being, I believe, 2011, when Tampa went to the Cup final. I remember their goalie was Dwayne Rollison, and he shut the Capitals out. We had nothing in that series, and we handled the Rangers in the series prior. So Tampa was just a really perfect team at the time, and the prior time they were also swept. So in the last games against Tampa Bay Lightning in the playoffs, the Capitals are 0-8, and that's got to change eventually. And I think this is the year that they finally get over the hump and make it to the Stanley Cup final. And now that we're talking about the Stanley Cup final, let's move on to the West, and Chops will give you some information about what he thinks about the West.
The Wild Wild West. Alan, recently I saw a movie. It starred 2 actors named John Wayne and James Stewart. It was a movie called The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, and in that movie there was a quote. The quote was,
"This is the West, sir. When the legend becomes fact, print the legend."
Except this defies all facts and all legends. I'm talking about the Las Vegas Golden Knights. A year ago, We knew that there was going to be an expansion team in Las Vegas. We just didn't know what their name was going to be. We didn't know what players they were going to get. There was rumors about Fleury going there because how good Matt Murray was in the playoffs. But they got Fleury. They got a scrappy, underrated, one of the most underrated players in the NHL, in James Neal. They have a man named Carlson, who is just dynamic.
William Karlsson, yeah.
And they have the M-Man. What's that man's
Jonathan
name?
Marchessault.
Jonathan Marchessault, and he's actually leading, from what I know, he's leading one of the playoff leaders in points. Las Vegas Golden Knights are doing something incredible, not just in hockey, but just in sports. They're an expansion team. This is their first year. You know how many teams wait as long to make the conference finals in their history? There are teams throughout all sports who have not even made it. The Seattle Mariners in baseball have existed since 1977 and still have not made it to the World Series. This Las Vegas expansion team is actually undefeated in the playoffs in their history, which is this year. I know, but it's just fun saying that if you're a Vegas fan or if you're a hockey fan. But I think everyone, if you're not rooting for the Lightning, the Capitals, the Jets, or the Predators, I think everyone in the NHL is rooting for the Las Vegas Golden Knights.
I really like the Golden Knights just because I heard a few quotes about the team. They were saying that at the start of the team, they figured they'd give their team 3 years to make the playoffs, like 3 years. They won the division. And then they were like, okay, like what are we going to expect out of them in the playoffs? We don't know like what they're capable of. They shut out the LA Kings, who were favored in that series. Shut them out.
They've lost 2 playoff games in their history.
Yep,
and I just love saying. I love saying.
Dominated the San Jose Sharks, which I personally did not think they would do. I thought the Sharks were again the favored team in that series. And they keep surprising people. They did not expect. No one on that team, not the coach, not the GM, George McPhee. No one knew that this team would get so far. And at this point, they're a pleasant surprise. And another reason why I think they're so good is because they don't have any past that they have to worry about. They're like making a name for themselves.
Now, and I'm also going to add to why they're good. I saw, now this is just from the eye test. I actually did go to the game, the Devils versus the Las Vegas Golden Knights in New Jersey. This team is just flat out faster than any hockey team, I believe, in the NHL. And I believe that's why they won the President's Trophy in the West. That's one of the reasons why I think they're doing great in the playoffs right now. They're just out running or out skating everybody on either team. They just, and their guys, not only can they skate, they can score. And plus Fleury, imagine being an expansion team and automatically you're going to get a future Hall of Fame goalie.
Of course, it's a great start. He came off a playoff series where he started the first 2 series, like the one against the Blue Jackets and against the Capitals, purely like Fleury was the man who stole that series from the Capitals and then went on to win second Stanley Cup in a row. And now he has a chance to win a third in a row.
He has me
unbelievable.
If the Golden Knights do this, Fleury for me is definitely a top 5 goalie of all time. He brings an expansion team to the Stanley Cup and wins it. That to me is just, it's never been done in sports. I just think that's, and to be the centerpiece, or I do overvalue goalies because having a good goalie really helps you, especially in the playoffs. Being the centerpiece of all that, you got to be up there. It's just, that's just for me. Now, before I give my prediction for the West, there is a Game 7, and I know, and I realize when this video gets put up, it's probably going to be after that Game 7. But who do you think will win against the Winnipeg Jets and the Nashville Predators?
Well, I think it's probably the most even Game 7 you're ever going to see, but both teams are extremely strong this year. Winnipeg won its first ever playoff series, the previous one, and it's ready to win its second. I think no one's stopping Winnipeg right now. I think it'll be a close game tonight, but Winnipeg is on a tear, and Nashville is still a very strong team. I do trust that they can come out on this one on top as well, but my heart's leaning towards the Winnipeg Jets because, like the Golden Knights, they're also a team making a bunch of firsts.
They're red hot.
They're red hot, and I don't see any intention of stopping. So I think the Winnipeg Jets are going to be the team to face the Golden Knights. in the East Western Conference Final.
Now, there's a difference between what I want to happen and what I believe will happen. I actually believe, because of the experience that the Predators have had last year, PK Subban, who I believe is one of the top 10 players in the NHL, I believe the Predators will actually win this Game 7. However, I am going to say that if Winnipeg does win, it'll be a better matchup. It'll be a better matchup for hockey fans to see the Golden Knights versus the Winnipeg Jets. But going back to Nashville, I just think their experience is better. And I know Winnipeg has come in hot, and usually hot teams, we all seen what hot teams in any sport can do in the playoffs. But right now, I think Winnipeg should just, whatever happens to them, I think they had a fantastic season. Mm-hmm. They've come a long way since becoming since they were the Atlanta Thrashers.
Right.
So don't take anything away from Winnipeg. They're a great hockey team. I just think that Nashville is a little more experienced. They have they're defending Western Conference champions. I think they're going to win this Game 7. Now,
as far as the West goes, do you think the winner? Do you think the Vegas Golden Knights would beat either of these teams?
Yes, but I do believe that to me it's a difference between will it go to 7 games or will it go to 6 games or 5 games. I believe if the Golden Knights play the Nashville Predators, they're going to win in 6 games. Flat out, because I just believe they're better skaters, better shooters, flower power, Marc-Andre Fleury. No. I just believe is just a better goaltender. Now, the Winnipeg Jets, because they're so hot, is one of the reasons why I think they'll go to 7 games. I think that'll be a great series. It's going to be a series for hockey fans have been really hoping and praying for. That can go to 7 games, but I still have Vegas coming out on top because A, of the home ice advantage, and B, because of the experience of Marc-Andre Fleury.
All right, so as far as right now, we have our Stanley Cup Final prediction set. This obviously all could change from now until the final.
Now, before that, who do you believe will win the West?
I believe that I love the Golden Knights, and I do understand why you would pick them because they are very hot themselves, and they have a lot to play for in their first season. And they played really well, but I don't see them coming out of the conference final series. I think that they're going to run into one of these 2 teams, Nashville or Winnipeg, and those teams are just going to be too much. I think that Nashville has way more experience in the playoffs, and I eventually think Vegas' luck could run out. And I think Winnipeg is just a bigger team and has just as many scorers. And honestly, when you think about Winnipeg, think about Dustin Byfuglien, who's a monster. He manhandled 2 Nashville Predators just with each arm.
Also, I forgot
you got Connor Hellebuyck, who has had an amazing, not just playoffs, whole season for the Jets. This guy came out of nowhere. He was originally a backup. Now he's their full-time starter, and he has played outstanding. I got the Jets coming out and beating the Golden Knights, and I don't think it's even going to be close. I think it's going to be 5-6 games.
Wow.
And my Stanley Cup final pick is the Capitals and the Winnipeg Jets.
Okay, so we have obviously we have our same Eastern Conference champion and different Western Conference champions, and that's fine. Now I'll ask you first though. In a Winnipeg Jets versus the Washington Capitals series, who comes out on top and who's your MVP?
That would probably be a 7-game series, and I wouldn't expect anything else. I think that the Capitals, if they do get there, I think they would seize the moment because honestly, neither of those teams have won a Stanley Cup, which would be super exciting to see. And Tampa Bay is the only team in the final teams that has won a Stanley Cup. So if the Tampa's knocked out, we're gonna have a new Stanley Cup champion regardless. And I feel like Washington has had Winnipeg's number this season, and we know how to beat Connor Hellebuyck. I'd say the Capitals win their first Stanley Cup this year in 7 games. All right, so that concludes our first ever hockey edition episode, and we'll come back with another hockey episode as soon as we figure out who our final 2 teams in the NHL are, 2 teams that will be set to take on each other in the Stanley Cup Final. So for now, I'm Alan Helimsky.
And I'm Michael Pittaro. Thanks for watching, everybody, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
All right, guys, have a good night. Thank you for watching.
Adios.